Welcome to Comfortable Conversations. I'm your host, Jas Kirk, where we dive into the greatest gift life can offer us, discomfort. These honest yet comfortable conversations we will have are essential as your life is your canvas. In each episode, I will share practical wisdom and personal stories that guide you through life's big questions, encouraging growth, self-discovery, and deeper connections in your everyday life. Today's guest we have is Jeff Williams. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know Jeff, he is a multi-talented professional, founder of Nimble, also works for PepsiCo as a marketing guru. I'm going to call you a guru.
I'll take it.
But I always like to share how I connected with people. And of course, it was through our fabulous Fab, who was like, you need to know Jeff. You guys are like synergy, doing similar things as far as like professional world meets having your own business and standing 10 toes in both. So I think Fab has said you guys need to connect it was like a year ago. And we finally this past year connected. So happy to have you here. Welcome to Comfortable Conversations.
I'm happy to be here, and shout out to Fab, of course, for the connection.
She's epic. So let's get started. What discomfort led you to this version of yourself sitting here with a dope, I'm going to say empire, because once you dive into this, people will really get to know like everything you're doing. And so what discomfort led you to this version of yourself now?
Dang, you starting off deep. I love it.
We got to start deep, and then we'll...
2015 in Dubai with like 70 to 100 young black professionals, 25 years old, and it felt like we were on top of the world. We got the glitch. I don't know if you remember or heard about the glitch where everyone woke up on Christmas Day and flights to Dubai were like $150 to $250.
I did not get that glitch.
So,
I did not know about it.
All the group chats was turning up. I woke up to hella texts, so I ended up getting the flight. And at that time, I was working as a manager of international sales, and I was making a substantial amount of money for someone who was 25. And I was like, I'm turned. Like, I'm going.
So where were you living at in the world?
Cincinnati.
Okay, you were in Cincinnati.
Yep. Friends in New York, friends in Cali, like all over. And we all jumped on this ticket.
On Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day. Woke up and like hurried up, bought the ticket. We organized so quickly. And we all chose the date.
So now, fast, you're on this trip. How long of a trip is it?
Like 7 days. So
y'all didn't just like take a there and back like a red eye. Y'all were like,
look, it's a $200 trip. Let's take out a week. Let's go live in Dubai for a week.
Oh my gosh.
That's what we did. It was a beautiful time. But you said like what discomfort? I mean, at that time that was post-college and in the middle of your career, like in the mid-20s, and you're feeling like, oh, dang, like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm finally getting there. But I can remember there was a moment on one of the days, it was the yacht day. So we had a yacht in Dubai Marina, and it was like 40 of us at the time.
Yeah.
Many of them, some of them like some of my closest friends. And there was a moment where everybody was just like looking out into the water. Like in their own, and I saw some thug tears drop, some people was just zoning out. And I remember how I felt that day. It was like, this was so beautiful. And like, we had been turning up across the nation, having fun, meeting new friends, etc. But it was at that moment where I just remember feeling like, this can't be it.
Purpose ignited in you. Like the spark hit you like something else. A tug came.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think I've always had this, I know I broke my arm in football my senior year and I got redirected. So I've always had this feeling. I was drawn to like bringing people together at that time. But I knew since college, I hadn't really been doing that. I just was out there getting money and trying to figure it out and have fun in Cincinnati, learning a new city, being out on my own. And then here we have this trip. I traveled a lot, but up until that trip, and then I just was like, whoa, this is beautiful. I love how I feel about being abroad, being this young black dude from Indianapolis. Like, my cousins, my uncles, my parents, like, they've not had this experience. I know they haven't, and I wish I could give them this feeling.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, it's just stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just a trip. So I was like, dang, like, beyond having the opportunity and the access to do it, what else is out there?
Okay.
Like, I needed more. It was like an urge of something deeper.
So how did you feed that? When did you start to feed that? Right after the trip, or did it take time?
I got back from that trip, and interesting enough, I led the nation in sales. I'm like 6 months, 7 months into this role, and I'm already like the leader in sales. And I'm starting to like, hey, you know, I studied international business as like a minor and studied abroad. And I was like, oh, I want to see if I can, you know, go to London and do all this other stuff. But I remember when I got back, I started having issues with my mentor, who now became my manager. And I realized I was the workhorse on the team. So if I didn't commit, if I didn't perform, or if I had already reached such a level of success that it's like the day that you don't,
something's wrong. Everyone's like, what's going on?
Yeah. Right. But my energy, I recognized my energy shifted because I started to recognize it. It was like a flip. It was like when I got back, I was like,
it wasn't making you happy or satisfied. Right. It wasn't like, it really wasn't feeding the flame anymore.
Yeah. And I realized that's not where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So over the next few months, I don't know. My conversations were different. I started, you know, it would be random stuff like, oh, I saw this article and it's about African-American the Diversity Intelligence series on Nielsen. I don't know how I stumbled across it.
Yeah.
But I read it front to back, and I'm learning about the power of the black dollar and how consumers and how consumer good companies are looking to learn more about us and how powerful our dollar is and why it's so important to have representation in marketing and innovation, et cetera. And I was becoming obsessed with that stuff.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, back in my hometown or in Cincinnati, and, you know, I'm in group chats like Travel New Orleans, and I'm seeing all these black folks together. Yeah. I'm like, this is so dope. But I'm not seeing representation in my hometown. In Cincinnati, I'm in this group chat, and there's hundreds of black folks in this group chat all around the same age. And I'm like, up the street an hour and a half away, I'm like, what's going on in Indianapolis? Like, is this our folks that are living in Indianapolis or who's just are transplants there who are coming for jobs at Lilly, Salesforce soon to come at that time? Yeah. Like, how are they connecting? Like,
so you got really curious. Like, this spark came where it was like, this isn't it. A tug in the other direction was pulling you, and you followed it. Little breadcrumbs, and you started to follow it. If it's articles, if it's conversations, like you started to specialize essentially in the area that you are now by reading, research, all of that. But you remained curious. I think that's always important for people to know. Like, it's not going to fall from the sky on your lap and be like, this is what you do next. You have to get curious.
Yeah. My dad always says to walk slow, and it took me a while to understand what he meant. But I really think that I was open and I allowed God to show up in my life by making space. And I think, you know, if there was a trigger, if there was a twinkle, then I was, like you said, out of curiosity, I would chase it. And that turned into me saying, hey, this doesn't exist in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So I'm going to start a group chat. And by May, 400 people in a group chat that I created in a day.
Was the group chat name, like, what was the name of the group chat?
Indie YBP.
Why
like
that?
Indie Young Black Professionals.
Okay.
And it was crazy because I went to Indianapolis that weekend when I finally said, I'm just going to start a group chat.
Okay.
And simultaneously, I was just sitting around. My grandparents could tell that I was uneasy. And I was like, I think I'm going to quit tomorrow. I think I'm going to quit my job.
Okay, first, what did they say?
They trust me. Like, I mean, it's one of those things.
Okay.
But it was such a bold move. Like, damn, am I going to quit? And then I went and I had this sense of, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And when I got there and we had a trip to Louisville the next day, that I was going to be in Louisville for 3 days for a meeting. And I get there and the dude, like, I'm like ready to pack my stuff. And he's like, hey, so, we're, basically was trying to check me about my business. And it was not like accurate.
Okay.
I'm like, so this is kind of crazy because they were trying to accuse me of like some shit that I didn't do. Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, I'm feeling like I'm ready to quit.
It's time to go.
So like, that was the last. I'm like, dude. So it wasn't like it was a mild conversation because I was so calm and I was at peace. I'm like, listen. And the HR person was there, and I'm like, hey, I don't really want to go back and forth on this. I think you and I both know.
I'm done.
And I know why you're doing this. So just tell me what I got to do. And I was like, and then on top of that, just let me know, am I getting my bonus? Because I had another year. Can I expect this? And because ultimately, if I fought it, I would have had a case.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have to fight it. And on Friday, not only did I get my little severance, I also got that bonus. So, and I walked away so relieved, but like, because I stood up for myself too. But that day, that happened. By the time I got up, it started with like 40. That Sunday night, there were 40 people in the group chat. I kid you not, it was nearly 400 folks in that group chat by the time I was walking out of that office.
So before we get there, because I feel like that is a deeper conversation. Like you had that, you knew how to trust yourself enough to say it's time.
Yeah.
And how many people actually have that inkling but don't know how to trust themselves because they don't know what's on the other side of that. Like, granted, you didn't know if you were getting your bonus or severance, but you ended up getting it. Like, how many people are stuck because they're like, oh no.
Yeah, and I empathize with that. I've had a up and down career. I mean, it's been very stable over since I moved to Dallas, I'd say, and really turned the corner in about 2018. Mm-hmm. It's always been elevation, but it's like at any given time something could happen. But I've always been open to new opportunities. But when you're a first generation in particular, or you don't have a safety net, a natural safety net, I understand why it would be so hard to do it. I was feeling myself. I also had, at the time, I had some bread. Like, I had a little bread. I had a little nest egg. And I just was feeling rebellious. And I was like, I'm just going to go out on my own.
Okay.
So I basically, what do they call it with like a sabbatical? I feel like I took a sabbatical.
He was like, all right, bye. Yeah.
And that was just confirmation. 400 plus people in a group chat. Well, it's groovy.
It was like you were in such alignment. Like everything, every step you were taking was reassurance. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Right.
So now I have all the time in the world to figure out what the heck is going on. So Travel Noir, shout out to Travel Noir at the time. Like, they were the first organization that introduced me to Slack. Okay. I realized, again, the data nerd in me, I'm like, hey, there's a lot of insight and there's a lot of conversations that are going on in a traditional group chat or like a text message thread. Yeah. It's so hard to keep up. Yeah. But in the Slack, you could organize the conversations. Yeah. So I took that mode and I was like, all right, y'all, it's getting hectic in here. Everybody's excited because there's never been anything like this in Indy and people are trying to link up. I'm going to transition this to Slack. Okay. And keep on inviting people, but I need emails, et cetera. So I use Excel files and everybody would respond with their emails. I would put the emails in and I would add them to the Slack. So we transitioned it to Slack. The benefit of that is now we have, hey, here's a careers channel in Slack. Here's a happy hour channel. Here's a love and relationships channel. So I organized the dialogue. And through that, I was able to garner insights and discussions around like what people wanted. And by the end of the summer, there were over 1,400 people in the Slack. Okay. So I spent my time in Indianapolis. I went home. I kept my crib in Cincinnati, but I lived with my mom too. So like I would be in Indianapolis and go maybe sometimes just to kick it on the weekends in Cincinnati. But I was getting out in the community in Indianapolis back home and picked up some contract work. Because of that, people were like asking me, could I do this or do that? So not only did I have my little nest egg that I ended up being able to like live off of, I'm also now getting a contract working for startups. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. And that's how I ballooned into, I leveraged that momentum to build trust with the local community, even though I'm from there, get connected to the transplants. And by the time I moved to Dallas that October, I had established like a little community
in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And so had you officially established Be Nimble yet?
No.
Okay. This is all.
So this is the origin. This is the building block.
How many, is this months or is this years?
This all happened from Dubai was March. I left that job in May. I moved to Dallas in October.
Okay.
Like November 1st was the first day.
Do you feel like when you trust God, the universe, or whatever, it will provide, like the movement is that quick? Because it sounds like it's like really, really quick.
It was so rapid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Godspeed is crazy. I'm thinking maybe this is a few years, but no, it was like.
And now, as I'm talking to you about it, it's kind of crazy to think about all that happened
in a matter of months.
And now I'm looking at it in hindsight. But mind you, I mean, I'm working for the startup. I'm getting out in the community. I'm learning more about my city too, because I haven't lived here since high school.
Yeah.
So, I could just feel the energy. There was a lot of potential, but there was also like a dark, I don't want to call it a hopelessness, but like a paralysis.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of opportunities that were there. And I saw how this community and allowing people to connect and curate certain things was starting to shift.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in like the hoods, et cetera, but in, I'd say like the transient community and those that are upperly mobile were starting to figure out like, damn, like I can get involved. So organizations were leveraging the chat to tell people what they were trying to kick off, or, hey, look, we've got Urban League this and we love for y'all to come out. And people are getting like attendance and commitments are ballooning.
Yeah.
And I wasn't making any money off of it. It was all about just
organic,
the love and creating the experiences. Establish some happy hours with some restaurants that were curated by former Colts players and stuff like that, just to bring people together. And people were like, you should do a membership. I didn't want to do a membership. I didn't want to make money off of it that way. What I wanted to do was to allow other people to curate and build businesses and leverage this platform to drive their things. And I knew sooner or later I was going to figure out how to on my end to monetize it in a way. But I never wanted to. And at that time, I knew how important data was. I was like, the data in and of itself and what I'm garnering from these insights is more valuable than me charging people to be a part of this community.
So once again, you're trusting yourself, because I think a lot of times you do have people saying, you could be doing this, you could be doing that, you could be doing this. And it's all this like distractive noise that you do have to hone in and say, what you're clear on your vision enough.
Yeah.
To know, like, not yet.
And I think our community, I was very adamant about this is about Black, Latinx, white folks who are allies. Absolutely. I wanted this to be a place for all of us, but it was very Black centered.
Yeah.
What I know about our community, because I love us and I've been curating events and being out in the community even back since college, I knew that if I charged it, there came an expectation. And would I be able to outrun the expectation, one, but then two, doing things organically and making it free helps you build trust.
Yes, yeah.
It kept the mission and everything pure.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's coming in like, hey, look, you got to get access to this. You got to charge this, blah, blah, blah. No, I would use it to promote things in the future.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about that community. People needed free access to that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so that's very similar to Honeydew. We've hosted 78 events and I never charge. And I would get people who were like, why don't you charge? And I'm like, it's not in me to do it yet. Like
Right.
in my mind, down the road, it'll be a day. But right now it's not. And so I do love that you sat with that because it really was what you curated and created really is for the culture. So now take us to, you've created Be Nimble.
Oh, yeah. So that did not take place until a year later.
Okay.
I get established in Dallas. I finally answered a corporate call, and it was Kraft Heinz. But again, I still have that rebellious spirit. So as soon as if I'm being met, I'm 25, 26 at the time. If I'm being met with any, I was 26, with any
tension, friction,
microaggressions, I'm like,
I'm out.
I was there 6 months, but it got me to Dallas.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed because Dallas was another confirmation that what I was doing was right. And I saw the potential here. So I've been rocking in from a career perspective since I've been here, but it's, I stayed there for 6 months, left the company, did not have to pay back my bonus. My reload and sign-up bonus at all because I was like, hey, look, I just feel like this place is not really conducive to like my well-being. I feel blah, blah, blah. Like I ran that girl up in HR. And mind you, I left. Like I there were no issues, but I was dealing with issues and I was not being heard and I was speaking about it and nobody was doing anything. I was like, oh, that person, that gal is protected. All right, bet, I'm gonna see you. Ended up getting a tech job, making 25% more and getting commission, and that allowed me to travel. What's key about that is I left Kraft or whatever, 2015, 2016. By September, I'm traveling as a regional manager in tech. So now I'm in the tech space.
Okay.
And that's where I meet my cousin. Like we connected about Be Nimble. That's where the origins of Be Nimble start, was that next, was like September, October. I have accounts out in Los Angeles. So I'm on a work trip and she's living out there. So we're like, hey, what up, cuz? Let's link.
Okay.
Like, and that turned into, and that was the foundation. I'll never forget, we were at Baby Blues in West Hollywood. And that's where the conversations about our hometown and our experiences while we both stayed there for a little bit.
Yeah.
And what we were seeing was happening and how we just both felt a conviction to be a part of the change there. While we're both in corporate tech roles right now. And that's what inspired us and me to get kickstarted with Be Nimble.
So you've, for a very long time, had two roles. Like you've had your professional role and you've also had the passion project that turned to business.
Yeah.
How can you share with, and the biggest thing I hear is you knew your value. Like at any point in time, you did not doubt who you were, your voice, and your value.
I had to learn that. That's not something that, it was like I said, it goes back to the Dubai trip, something like switched. And it's just, I was, you know what, I always say this. I didn't plan on dropping any of my like Jeffisms, but there's one. Like, for sure, like, shit don't change until you sick of your shit.
Yeah.
And I was sick of how I was feeling about myself when I know either I was being mistreated and not speaking up, etc.
Yeah.
I finally was just over it.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've just been bold. And I think, to your point, God gives us confirmations and winks along the road to let us know that, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I love a wink. Winks along the road. We still in that Jeffism.
There we go. So that's all it was.
Yeah. But you also stepped into your God-gifted talents.
Yeah.
Like that sounds very clear as you're talking. I'm like, of course it's Godspeed when you're in your God talent.
Yeah.
Like,
I love bringing people together.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a nerd. I'm into fashion. I'm into music and all these other things. But at the core, I get energy from bringing people together and reaching towards a specific purpose or accomplishing a collective goal.
Community.
And I know that I'm called in that regard because my history shows that, hey, when this has happened, this is what happens, no matter how nervous I've been.
Yeah.
On the outside, it's like, damn, okay, that happened.
Yeah. I love that. So you have been, like, you and your cousin in LA sitting down, chopping it up.
Talking shit.
And you said, we got to do something.
Yeah.
And how did y'all come up with Be Nimble, though? Like, why Be Nimble? Why name it Be Nimble?
Yeah. Shout out to Kelly. Like, it came to her. But it was at the core of our questions.
Like,
so that conversation sparked that there were legacy organizations in the city who were historically given funds, and they were no longer as relevant as they used to be, but they still were receiving a lot of money to make an impact in the city.
Okay.
But what we were hearing based off of my Slack was people were disconnected.
Yeah.
And that there were challenges that were going unsolved. So that was one. Two, we realized that there was a generational gap. There were a lot of older folks that were still in position and a lot of younger folks that were trying to get busy, but felt like they had to wait.
Yeah.
Juxtapose that against us, who are one of few Blacks in this tech ecosystem or space. And we're a part of a national conversation because we have friends. We live in big cities that are hubs. We're hearing and we're learning that Salesforce was bringing their HQ2 to Indianapolis that year. It was like, wow, who in the city is talking about jobs of the future?
Yeah.
Right. The economy that uplifted our family in particular was the automotive industry. They were blue collar jobs, but they were paying six figures after the automotive industry and the financial crash of 2008. Our families, like my dad, et cetera, were getting laid off and they were getting displaced. When they got displaced, that wiped out a whole generation of Gen X Black folks that were middle and upper middle class. And they were looking to rebuild. And those jobs weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
They weren't coming back. But what was replacing them, we saw that the state was investing more in technology, software, and the adjacent industries to uplift that for the future. So we're like, how do we ensure? This was the question, and this was the problem for us to solve that we kept marinating on was, how do we ensure that our community is not left behind?
And how did you answer? Of course, y'all had the answer to that.
Yeah, so it was, number one, we did our research and realized no organizations were talking about technology. There were not any upskilling programs that existed at the time. There were no organizations that, you would hear about STEM, but the T was little.
Yeah.
It was more about the science. It was more about the math. It was not about the actual technology and what that looks like. So we hit the ground running. We just started knocking on doors and just saying, hey, this is where we're going. And we realized nobody had a direct focus on diversity in tech in our city. So the next step is, hey, Kelly's still in LA. I'm in Dallas. I'm on Twitter, and girls in my city are talking about, it was a random day I'll never forget. They were talking about, it's been a while since we got to dress up. Hasn't been another opportunity. When's the last time you got to put that shit on? You know what I'm saying? And go to a ball or a gala. Mind you, I'm in Dallas. We going to Margarita Ball at this time, and I'm seeing these other experiences.
Sneaker ball and all of that,
Yeah. And it's like a whole gala season, but that wasn't taking place in Indianapolis. So I'm like, got the chat. It's 1,400 people. What if I threw a ball?
And what did they say?
Hell yeah. And I'll never forget, it was this guy he was a Kappa, I'm an Alpha at IU. I'll never forget it. Because I was on Twitter dang, I think I could do it while simultaneously being in Slack. So I'm getting confirmation all around. He was like, if anybody can do it, you can. I was like, I didn't even know this dude really paid attention to me like that, but he told me that. So I was like, bugging, I'm going to do it. So I organized a little team and we threw a ball and I was like, hey, I'm not going to profit from this. I want to give it to an organization. So I made a commitment. There was an organization I had been volunteering with that was targeting young Black males. And I was like, hey, there's no organization, y'all are underfunded. And I realized there's no distinction in your organization. Would you mind if myself and my cousin and I got other people, what if we came in and built you out a tech curriculum
Oh, wow.
programming, because I know that there's a lot of funding out there that's untapped, and that could be your difference maker. I'm going to throw a ball, and I'm going to give you all the proceeds. They were like, ain't no way. I was like, yes.
Way.
There's no risk at you.
Yeah.
Threw it all one pitch and toss, got connected with the JW, got a couple sponsors, did a pre-sale. We sold tickets to this open bar gala at the JW for $40. The first Party Girl ball was kicked off. That I made the decision in November. It happened in February. We had over 400 people that attended, and I was able to cut a $14,000 check for that organization. We rolling.
There we go. But you give back, like y'all still didn't take any of the funding.
Nah, we what? I said, hey, let's bake in a 20% of like a fee of 20%, and I'm going to split it up between everybody who put in work on this gala.
Okay.
So everybody got equal pay out of that, and then we were still able to cut a $14,000 check. So yeah, after expenses, yeah. So like I think I got like $800 or something like that.
But you're still gaining so much more. Yeah. Now this is like y'all's first event.
Yeah.
Partnering with another organization and say, hey, we can build this out for you. Even growing that branch of your arm.
Yeah. And so having the conversations about us throwing a ball and looking to do a sponsorship is what unlocked conversations with folks in the tech ecosystem in Indianapolis to say, So that's where we started to establish relationships and learn about, coding boot camp this. This one is here. Hey, we're looking to get more because we're not under resourced. We have the funds, but we recognize that we don't really see a lot of Black and brown faces. Yeah. And we believe that this is an alternative pathway. All right, we'll help you promote, And so we started doing that while also trying to work with this organization. And that's how we got our start. Next year, so this is 2017, we did the gala in February. And by the summer, my cousin and I kicked off
another series.
A whole tech conference called Disrupt Indy.
By Be Nimble.
Yeah. So this was our first event. It took place in 2017 under the guise of like, hey, while we got that going now, that tech thing is here, but we're going to build our thing around this.
And you still have your full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever, with your full-time jobs, was there ever any friction of them worried that like you'll leave one day because they saw the growth in what you guys were doing?
No. Okay. And transparently, earlier on, I was very protective of it, and I didn't really share much about it. But by 2018, I had my director was a Black man named Scott Harris. Shout out to Scott. He saw a vision in me. Like he saw me.
Yeah.
I had my sales background, but as I told you, I was really interested in marketing and consumer insights. He gave me my first role in that in 2018. And I got the conversations that I got to have with him were very transparent. He never held, like I was protected.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't any issue that I was doing things out because I was also getting my work done. This was something I was doing in the evenings. So I never had to deal with that. And then by 2020, I'm at Anheuser-Busch now. So after that job, I got poached by Anheuser-Busch and I started working here out of the regional office. And now I just feel way more empowered.
Yeah.
So it's like now I'm starting to, and how those conversations are going in 2020. I'm like, I'm doing this. And like, this was my first time I felt comfortable in like even white spaces talking about the work that I was doing for my community. And I wasn't being rejected. People were inspired.
Yeah.
They're like, shit, I go home and I, walk my dog, or we go get some brews, or we eat, or it's just date night, or I'm just going to the gym. And you mean to tell me after work you go get on calls and you're building a nonprofit is noble. So, I've never had that feeling. Now I know that, as I climb the corporate ladder and I become an executive here at Pepsi, if God willing, if I make it that far, I'm going to have to make decisions. But God has also allowed Be Nimble to grow in a way where we have full-time employees and like our capacity has grown where, hey, maybe at that time, if I do make that decision to move forward into executive leadership, simultaneously, Be Nimble will be at a place where it doesn't need me in the weeds on a daily basis to survive.
Yeah. But you also, what I heard was like sacrifice. Yeah. Like as everybody else is going home, having date nights and just walking the dog, just having a drink, you're sacrificing the fun. You're sacrificing like the mundane moments.
Or I'm doing it all. You mentioned Kobe. I'm a Virgo, so.
I mean,
5 a.m. workouts, like, but yeah, you're right. It's not every day. But
it's not every day, but you like, are you still traveling as much as you were traveling? Like at some point, there is no such thing as the balance of it. And you essentially have 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And so you have to, like, I have to ask that question about what are you sacrificing in this moment? Is it your health? Is it your mental health? It doesn't sound like your mental health too much, but relationships, friendships, going out, like that shift has to start happening for you to have success in these areas.
1,000%. And in every phase, every year, it feels like it's one ball that has been dropping. I think last year it was more so like health from a sense of like not being as consistent with like my working out and picking up a little, you know what I'm saying, weight.
Yeah.
Not being able to hoop how I wanted to hoop, feeling it in my knees. A year's past, you know, it's been relationships that I suffered. And my friends, like I got to shout out Fab. I got to shout out, you know, my cousins, my dog Mike and others. I'm like, yeah, like that is something that for this year, I'm being very intentional about is, hey, finding that rhythm where I still make space for the relationships that I cherish. Because I know that there was a season where that was the ball that was dropping. Yeah. Where I wasn't as present as I wanted to be. So yeah, every phase is something, but I can't say it's been a consistent one thing because once I've identified it, that's what I get obsessed with trying to work on. Yeah. And once I feel like that's stable, it's another one. I move on to the next.
Yeah. I feel similarly. You have to be really intentional and like, it's like, what is a priority today? You put them up there. You're like, sorry, that's not a priority this moment. Because these are like taking everything out of me, but it is really honest conversations. I got a friend who would be like, Jas, you're not traveling as much. And I'm like, but I'm putting all my money in my business. So y'all want me to fly, travel, live. And I love a luxurious lifestyle. So I don't want to be in the scums of wherever. Like,
ice me out.
But it is like, it's hard when you're in the pit of it and you're like, I see the next goal. It's right there. Just give me a little bit of time and I'll get there. And I feel like in relationships, I've dated men who are very successful and I saw how disciplined they were, that it actually would inspire me to be like, girl, you need to be more on it. Like I can do even more because this, like, they're sacrificing for that bigger goal or whatever it is. And it's a conversation that I feel like a lot of people don't have. When you think about relationships, you're like, this person's cheating or this, or they don't give me my time or this or that. And it's like, but who is that individual? Like, who is he or who is she at their core that like, what is driving them right now that they have to give all of their attention and heart and soul to their baby, even if you don't have children or whatever?
1,000.
Yeah. So, what's next? Be Nimble's off the ground. It's doing amazing. What's next for Jeff?
Well, I think for Be Nimble, when I think about next, like we moved into our office, it's more employees. It's us reaching our next plateau. We did a strategic planning session last year, and we're starting to get more pieces in place to build out our long-term stability. So I'm looking forward to that evolution. I think for myself, outside of just that, just more time with friends, getting back to travel. And then I'm looking forward to what's next, in my corporate career as well. But I think in this season, I'm really excited to, and we talked about it already, but like that balance, like what did Kendra say? I want it all. I deserve it all.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like,
that's how I feel too.
And I'm entitled to have that balance and find that balance. So I'm really looking for that.
Yeah.
Like the quality and the intentional relationships with Kai and my friends and others, but also being able to travel and get back abroad. So I'm looking forward to those things, having that balance.
Yeah, I love that. I said, what version, you were kind of answering it for me. What version of yourself are you most excited to see? And it sounds like the one that has it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not in the near future, but what does Daddy Jeff, Daddy Hefe look like? Like married Hefe, like whenever, that time comes. But I mean, not saying like that it's this year, but I'm like, when I think about the various facets of me, like I'm looking forward to that face.
That's what's
when I get there too.
I love that. I'm very similar, like mom Jas.
Yeah.
Married Jas. I'm
jogging suits and the sneakers. Like,
yeah,
I'm thinking
listen,
about...
I got my mom look ready,
right.
Headed to Pilates.
I got the Uncle JJ fits off, so how does that shift now that when I have my own?
Yeah, so I love that. I love that you're actually talking about that. And like, do you have a word for the year?
Not yet. It comes to me. It's probably like later
in the
year.
February,
so it's probably around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the last time that I had like a word that really like resonated. I can't even remember what last year's word was because I just popped off. But the year before that, it was gratitude.
Ooh, last year mine was trust. No, the year before last was trust. Then it was surrender, and this year is joy.
That's
joy
beautiful.
Joy came in December. Like, joy's gonna be your word, and I was like, is it? And then like now I'm like, yes, we are putting all of the joy, all fused throughout life. Like,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited.
25 is a year to thrive.
It is.
I gotta figure out what my word is now.
You gotta let us know.
But I'm allowed to come to me though.
But it sounds like everything just like instantly comes to you the way you've shared your story here today.
I feel bad because I don't want people to feel like, oh, it's just. But it's not easy. I'm saying I'm allowing myself to receive messages. I'm seeking it out. There is something in me that is opening me up.
You get curious and you leave room for it. And I think that is really important because I get what you mean by like, you don't want people to hear like, oh, this took 3 months. But when you're in it, you don't see that it took 3 months. When you look back, you can see how when you remained curious, when you remained open, when you remained aligned and true to yourself, it all did flow. And yeah, there were obstacles along the way, but that alignment with self will always like have a momentum that each step is like you start running after a while and you're like, I'm just walking, but you can maintain that speed. And when you can't, you take a step back, not take a step back, but you slow your pace and you're good. But so many guests, when I say like, what was that time frame? They'll be like a day, 3 days. And I'll be like, God moved that quick in your life. But I want people to hear that because like if you trust yourself, you trust God, you trust the universe, whatever, it can be that quick, that transformative for you.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Last year's word was transform, by the way. I remember it.
Yeah, there we go. I like that one. Last year, surrender whooped my ass.
Hey, gratitude with my ass. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Like gratitude.
Surrender was handing out. I was like, surrender was kicking my ass in the sense of it being like, you don't have to fight me. Like, just like, this is actually bliss. Why do you keep seeing this as like, fine, throw your arms up? And I was like, is it not? This is what it feels like. Why does it feel like I'm being shed in so many ways. And it's like, am I not making you lighter? Don't you feel better? And I was like, yeah, but that's not the point.
I think that's one of those challenges. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or anything, but in those moments where good things happen or what you ask for happen and you kind of tense up about it.
Yeah.
Like I felt that because it's like, dang, like at any given moment, is this going to last?
Yeah. I think it's all of us have that. And it's that constant reminder, like, no shoe will drop. Don't stop letting the shoe in your mind drop.
And it's right. It's all there.
So is there anything you want to share to the people or to your younger version of yourself, like a gentle reminder?
That curiosity piece, if I had anything to share with folks, I think that might be the theme today.
Be curious.
Remain and keep that curiosity. Mm. And then to my younger self, I wish I was as bold now as I was then. Because I remember, especially in athletics and stuff, like it's crazy because I love bringing people together, but I was also obsessed with not disappointing people early on.
Yeah.
And transparently, in hindsight, I'm realizing that some of the conflicts or the tension that I had, I didn't bring it upon myself, but it was envy.
Yeah.
Or it was out of lack from my peers, but the weight that I carried because of that was so difficult at times. Yeah. And I realized it was a blocker and it blocked a lot of my progress early on. And I've thought about, well, how would my life have been different if I didn't? Or would that have accelerated me to a place where I am today or even further?
Yeah.
And I don't have any regrets, but what I would say, because I'm thankful, I know that God, like from the arm break to this or that, some of those disappointments brought me here. But I wonder how I would have if I actually believed that I was that nigga.
Yeah.
Earlier on.
If no one like came and like made you feel like you weren't. Because
my parents, and it's crazy, you hear it, and it's like I grew up in a family where, you know who you are, and I definitely received the love, but when you go out, like I felt both, and I don't know why earlier on I gravitated to that, like to the naysayers or the people, like how did I, but today it's like I'll bust somebody's ass, like on a basketball court or. If I feel that, like I handle it so much more differently and I don't allow it to affect my mood as much.
Yeah, but it sounds like you don't, because when you talked about like you're looking forward to having it all, like, and it's some point within our lives that someone comes and we don't even realize like they've tainted that like I can have it all vision.
Yeah.
And you like start to go through life a little bit, not all the way at 100% max when you could definitely do it. At 18, someone said that to me. And then in relationships that didn't work out were the guys who told me, Jas, you can't have it all. And it would always be that little thing like, why? Like, why can't I? And now I'm like, I wish somebody would tell me I can't have it all, because baby, you gone like out the door, because now I'm in such my groove that I feel like, oh, why you let that like someone come in and tell you that and keep that for so long? Like now it's like
keep it just like wear it like a badge, like armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that release.
I love that. You left people with a lot of good gems. So thank you, Jeff. How can people stay connected to you? Jeff.Dreams.
I don't really post on my page as much, But when I do, I got something to say. My stories are funny. I think they are. I think I make people laugh on me, follow me on my stories. But yeah, Jeff.Dreams. I mean, you can email me at jeff@bnimbleco. I'm always willing to link or have conversations. But I say those two primarily.
Jeff.Dreams.
On the grams.
Yeah, listen. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for joining me, Jas Kirk, on Comfortable Conversations. Remember, the greatest gift life can offer you is discomfort. It's what shapes us, teaches us, and helps us grow. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. For more information and updates, follow us on Instagram at Honeydew. That's HUNNIDUOE. Until next time, keep embracing life's challenges as opportunities to create your masterpiece. Your canvas is waiting. Go paint it beautifully.